Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Ruan Hayden, and welcome to Witch Talk, a new show that I started last week to act as a sort of question and answer segment where I'm able to answer the questions of my viewers and really build community with with you guys. Because that is one thing. Hold on, I'm having issues with my hotspot. My internet is currently down, and I am having issues to accessing the web. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Ruan. I am an ordained metaphysical minister from the International Metaphysical Ministry. I hold a bachelor's degree in metaphysical practice. I hold another bachelor's of science in psychology. I'm an oath taken fairy friend and a member of the Circle of the White Stag community, a group a group of co-members who are navigating the world within the life path of the ancient fairy faith. Now, I said that I would not be doing tarots on Tuesday, but I felt this week it was imperative that I go ahead and I pull cards. As most people know, when I pull my cards, my deck is intimately connected to an ally, a preternatural entity which dwells in the unseen world, which my tradition calls a Nuven. So when I picked these cards, I was mindful of just the current world events and the individual life experience of my fellow men, women, and children. And so when I picked the cards, I was very apprehensive in asking any specific questions of my unseen allies. And so I'm going to go through this tarot reading with my viewers, you. And then after, I will have a question and answer session. And this will also include tarot readings for you viewers, free and complimentary. So let's dig in. So the first card that I picked, which to me symbolizes the next 2 days. So I go from Tuesday to Tuesday when it comes to this episode. So each card represents a 2 day period of cycles. And so the first card I picked was the Three of Cups. Now, the Three of Cups is about friendship. It's about community, gatherings, celebrations, and other social group type events. But it can also indicate scandal, gossip, and an imbalance between solitude and community. Now, let's see. When the Three of Cups is drawn, it means that there's good times that are in the air. For the three ladies who have their cups, they symbolize success of victory. So their happiness is well deserved. These ladies are standing atop a field of flowers and fruit, further adding to the joyful feelings in this card. These are feelings of beauty, of growth, compassion, happiness. The happiness that individuals share between each other. So when I pulled this card, it was in the upright position. And this, of course, as I mentioned previously, represents a period of happiness. And now in this spread, it covers a 2 day um, span of time. Can be into 3 days because it is the Three of Cups. Now, for this period of time, you will be able to forget the worries of your daily life and spend quality time with family and friends. This could also indicate a happy reunion with a long lost friend, relative, or other loved one. It can also mean a time of celebration, whether it is your own or someone you love. The event can be a birthday, a wedding, or any other happy occasion. In general, it is about spending quality time with people you cherish in your life. Now, in the realm of love, it emphasizes more about the celebrations. If you're single, you may have luck finding love in your social life. A close friendship may turn into romance. Now, if you're already in a relationship, social gatherings will bring the two of you closer together. When you go out into the world together as a couple, it may make it easier to see just how well the two of you really get along. Being around friends and family can have a strong effect on the two of you, reminding you of why it is you two have chosen each other. Your love can feel deep and gratifying now. As for your career, it also signifies celebrations. It may be that a number of work related events are on the horizon. These parties will be joyous occasions. Now, they can take many forms. You may be celebrating a graduation, a change in position or promotion. Now, if you are launching a business and planning a release, these events are likely to go particularly well. Outside of these engagements, your office environment can be very positive right now. You may find that group work and collaboration is easier now than it has been in the past. It is indeed a good time to enjoy these celebrations and supportive relationships. Now for finances. You may have a lot to celebrate right now financially. All of this can be very exciting, but it is important to not get too carried away. You may find that your social life is more important to you than ever during this time. And while you may be in the position to be generous, make sure that your good fortune lasts. Be joyous, but also responsible. Now, the second card that I picked, which will consist of about Thursday and Friday, maybe about there, I pulled the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles is about abundance. It's about prosperity, security, your own ambition, and the ambitions of others. But it's about being safe and kind. It can hint towards the patriarchal, so be very mindful of that, as it is connected to the idea of being protective. You may feel like you are definitely a provider. It can also indicate greed and materialism, being wasteful or even chauvinist. Don't make poor financial decisions right now. Now, the King of Pentacles refers to a man with high ambition, materialistic satisfaction, and worldly success. He looks sophisticated and regal. He also has surrounded different plants and vines and flowers, which depict this king's attainment of that material success. He tends to hold a scepter in his right hand and a coin with the pentacles engraved on it in his left hand. We are immediately drawn to the regal and generous presence. He is a provider and a protector, for under his care is a flourishing and abundant kingdom where its citizens are prosperous and encouraged to grow. He is naturally responsible. And of course, what I mean by he and she within any reading and stuff, I'm meaning about individuals around you, not necessarily a male or a female. These are masculine and feminine principles in the terms of um, how one views one's role in society and relationships, to be honest. Now, he is naturally responsible and reliable. And though the wisdom granted to him by his suit, being the Pentacles, he has grown all that he has acquired for practically nothing. To see him in the card is to envision success, one that was earned by earnest work. Now, generally, this card reminds us to stay in control of our energy and our resources in pursuit of a larger goal. When it comes to work, the King of Pentacles may refer to a more established man who will play a significant role in your career. This man can be wise and rational, but he also may be careless when passing judgment. He can be your biggest supporter, but be prepared to receive unsolicited and harsh criticism. Now, in love, this can indicate that the person that you've been waiting for can come along and will love you for who you are. This is represented as finding a great partner. I don't want to sit there and sound kind of woohoo, but this person can be a good parent and a provider. He is demonstrative of his love through action instead of words and looks to create a stable and loving home for his family or her family. If you meet this person, they may be slow to make a commitment, but this is only because they take love very seriously and need to truly understand you before taking any next steps. While not necessarily representing a person, the King of Pentacles can suggest a time in your relationship which is secure and stable. The two of you will be very comfortable, both emotionally with each other and materially. You may have worked very hard in the past to enjoy your current standards of living, and now you can relax. In the career professional context, the King of Pentacles can be an outstanding indicator of a successful business venture. When it comes to your work and your career, this king achieves his highest ambitions and has a great reputation amongst his colleagues. This card can additionally indicate that someone with more experience will mentor and encourage you in your chosen profession. This person will have lots of experience and can give you much needed support, and sometimes even recommendations to new jobs or promotions. Financially, you have reached a level of security that comes from being diligent and wisely saving and investing. Since this king is also generous, you may also be using your newfound wealth to support loved ones or to support small businesses that you admire and you wish to help grow, while enjoying the luxuries that you may have missed out on while you were saving. Indulge a little. You do deserve it. And for the 2 days after that, Saturday, Sunday, and a little bit of Monday, we have the Four of Cups. And it looks just like that in my deck. And if you didn't know, I do mostly use the Llewellyn Tarot by Anne-Marie Ferguson. And it's a lovely little deck that focuses on Arthurian and Welsh myths. Now, Four of Cups is about contemplation, feeling disconnected, a little melancholy, maybe even bored. The Four of Cups displays a young man sitting under a tree on a mountain, most cards, far away from others. He seems to be in contemplation and meditation. In front of him are three cups laying on the grass, while another cup is being offered to him by a hand in the air. This man has crossed his hands and legs, and he is looking down at the three cups, unimpressed, such that he cannot see the cup being presented to him by the outstretched arm. Four of Cups represents our tendency to take for granted the things that we have, making it hard for us to see what treasures the universe presents us with. We tend to have the answers to our troubles right around us, but we tend to focus too much on what we do not have. Four of Cups tend to appear when you are feeling discouraged and unmotivated. You may feel as if there is no solution or way forward in your situation. Life has become stagnant, and nothing seems to make you happy or passionate. You are feeling apathetic, regardless of what happens. Whether the day is good or bad, none of it matters to you. The Four of Cups commands a self evaluation of your attitude so that you can pull yourself out of this rut. The solution is likely right in front of you. The hand is offering you a way out, but you release yourself out of your mental stubbornness and deploy a new approach. You must search your motives, instincts, and thoughts so that you can find your passion again. Four of Cups revolves around finding your true interests and working towards fulfilling them. Our lives are short and sometimes monotonous, but we must create new meaning for ourselves. Our individual callings are not just there for us to find, but to decide and to imagine. In love, if you are single, the Four of Cups tarot means and suggests a time of feeling boredom or indifference regarding your love life. Sometimes this can come naturally after a breakup, but one must make sure that this doesn't come from unconsciously attempting to protect yourself from possible pain and suffering that love has brought you in the past. Opportunities come when you are open to seeing them, and right now, you can't be bothered. Should you already be in a relationship, there can be a lack of interest and wariness in it. Excitement is faded, and you may feel more roommates than lovers. Sometimes this requires only some exploration and willingness to experiment. Without some effort from both partners, the relationship may be nearing its end. You see the Four of Cups in a section about your career. If this is what you're here to read, you may feel distracted and distant at work. It may be hard to focus on the tasks at hand or get excited about projects. And I think a lot of that is because people are going back to work in the office. Now, this boredom can also be impacting your mood negatively. You may feel down on yourself and thus find it even harder to be productive. None of this is aided by the overwhelming stagnation you probably feel. The stagnation might be the root of the issue. It can be hard to focus if you are going nowhere. It may be helpful to take some time to just detangle this issue, looking inward and knowing what makes you feel so unhappy. And doing something about this can help you make a change for the better. When it comes to your finances, this can signal that you may feel distracted as well. Are you so busy being jealous of what others have that you do not see what is in front of you? You may be constantly comparing your own situation with others, but this envy can be preventing you from appreciating what you already have. Being more grateful can also help you see better ways of bettering your financial situation and be more comfortable when it comes to taking material risks. If you are so fixated on what you do not have, you may never notice the opportunities to actually achieve that which you envy. At times, this can be presented as a general disillusionment with money, capitalism, and financial systems in general. And so that is the tarot reading for this week. Now, in this segment of our show, now I am opening the lines to any possible questions, comments, concerns, or if you decide you would like a tarot reading, just reach out a comment. I got some beautiful green tea with me right now. it's very rare that I actually get up and I make a thing of tea that's not for ritual or for spell work. Just to enjoy the weather, to spend time just meditating on life circumstances and, the various obligations that I take upon myself, my work with my clients and my patrons. And I come across a lot of concerns, concerns about the way the world is today, the suffering of just being here on this planet. And I think that we don't really look at what is actually there, what we actually do have. For instance, when me and my wife first got this trailer and we moved up here to Bird's View, I was very skeptical about even starting to make it work. I was very concerned due to finances. I was very concerned due to just not having that security that we could make this venture work. And so, especially as I was healing from some major surgery, I haven't been able to go back to work door dashing or anything like that in a long time. We've still got to put a couple parts on our Explorer, and because of that, it let's just say it makes it extra difficult for me to drive. When we first got this trailer, there was a significant leak in our roof. Of course, this was previously owned, and unfortunately, the people did not give it the TLC that it deserved. And it's definitely a fixer-upper. Don't get me wrong; it really is. But as we fixed the place, me with the help of one of my tribesmen, one of the members of Adoniad. We tarred it. We did some sealant on it. We got a tarp over it, and well, let's just say that it doesn't leak anymore. And I got the thanking and stuff about how blessed we are to actually get it. How my working with Grandy Creek, which is not far away from me, working with the unseen spirits, the spirits that indwell the land, my ancestors, and my other allies, we have sort of actually made this work, um, even to the point of I reapplied for disability because I do have um, a few significant disabilities, um, particularly a back issue. Um, and so I found out after I reapplied, because I was denied, we found out today that since this is my second, I thought this was my second round of applying, we found out actually that due to the pandemic, my appeals for the hearing I had actually is still in the process. And so I actually get the help of an attorney as part of my first application, which means if, the God's willing, that I get this help, get disability, then they will retroactive it. They will go back to my first application and thus have the back payment. That back payment would give me enough to be completely caught up on, well, hopefully, completely caught up on all my child support. And then all I would have to pay is the current amount And it would allow me to not just keep my home and provide for my family, but to allow me to do so much more in the community. It would give me more access to give resources, because a Dragon's Voice Ministries, which is what I call my work. Other people just call me a witcher. But this extra finances would allow me to do more work, on behalf of my patrons and my clients. It would give me access to more resources, so that I can help you. And it's amazing to find that out, whether it's approved or not, that maybe, just maybe, there might be a light at the end of this twisted tunnel. And I attribute it to my work as a fairy friend. I am, like I said, I've taken the oath of belonging as part of the Circle of the White Stag, and I have focused my reverence to the oath of belonging and what is mentioned in this clauses. And in fact, engraved on my walking stick are the glyphs associated with each individual clause of that oath. I take my oaths very seriously. I was taught a long time ago that promises mean something, that rule by law can work, and that by being loving, compassionate, kind, and to be able to give to help others, whether it's monetary, in any shape of abundance, or even giving back to the community in the ways that I have, allows us to make very powerful alliances with formerly human and other than human entities. And so, in working with Ura, the term used in what's called the Sendatha invocation, as written by Robin Artisan, that by making alliances with Grandy Creek, where I do all my meditations, has created a potent relationship, and that my petitions and my offerings mean something, that relationships can be built with those entities that some people don't believe in. It doesn't matter if others don't believe in the same things that you do, but the experiences speak for themselves. And so that's why I can sit here and say, this is my fairy tale. These are my experiences. And that it comes from the works that I do, the actions that I achieve, and that you yourself can have these experiences. And so that's why I provide this media. I provide Witch Talk / Tarot Tuesday, the Fairy Friday I do with my patrons, and a Dragon's Voice on Sundays, where we take a snippet of a wonderful quote by a author within the community, and we comment on it. Now, the last couple episodes of A Dragon's Voice, previously I had guest speaker, I had another co-host, and due to circumstances, they were not able to join me. Well, I'm sure one of them could have, but I felt called to do a social rant, and it was something that needed to be said. For this is a Dragon's Voice Ministries, and the Dragon's Voice is the voice of Anun, to be a Pendrake, which is a title that I inherited from a relative. I am part of a family tradition, so to speak, because we've had witchcraft and paganism as it is currently practiced among some people for over 50 years. So naturally, there are now, if there wasn't Famtras before, and there's a lot of mytho-histories that claim to hold a tradition far back in time. Now, whether true or not, we do now have Famtrads. We have family covens. We have family traditions of witchcraft. And my own particular one, um, as I hate this term, the head of the family. I'll use that in terms because it is neither a title only for men or only for women. The Pendraig can be whoever is manifests certain abilities and is chosen by a council of elders. But to be a Pendraig is to speak for the earth, to speak for those who have no voice in the seen world, or at least a voice that others can comprehend. And so to be a Pendraig is to be like Pwith in the story from a Mabinogi, to be a Pen Anun or a head of Anun, to speak for the unseen realms. And I'm not the only one who can lay claim to such a title. Any man, woman, or child can be a Leithathreg, a voice of the dragon. And that is kind of my goal to be here, is to help support support others in their own paths, to express my own path as I'm constantly swifting and changing through these relationships, to be a gopher. If you've got a question that you would like answered and you just can't seem to find the place, it has not come to you in a physical form, let me help out. That is kind of why this Witch Talk episode exists now, to open a medium of communication where you, the viewer, can ask Socratically. And so for the next, half an hour, I really am just going to be here, to be present in the space, staff in hand, tea in the other. I don't know if I like this tea more with honey or without. It is so good. Oh, speaking of, because I don't like the idea of dead airspace, I can say that I am working on the scripts for A Dragon's Voice. I am shaping things up. I'm going to see about doing a news section, a lore section, which of course will expand on like the history of a certain practice or an idea, whether it's one that my personal family tradition holds or one that other traditions hold, to give a greater view of other people's concepts. I decided to, because I use Patreon, and they had a deal with Acast podcasting of a free account to do a podcast. And so I hemmed and I hawed and I petitioned and I asked my ancestors, I asked gods that my people swear by, and they said, you know what? Do it. Make scripts for this podcast. And so as I shift things around, because I do still want to do guest hosting with Karu and Modwin and others, possibly even you yourself, that I wanted to do a podcast to make it easier, because some people have a hard time watching my videos, and people listen to podcasts. Evidently, I've never touched podcasts before, and so I wanted a greater means to provide my service. So in case you're driving in a car, or you're exercising, or you know, you've just got you're doing dishes. That's when I listen to most of my music, is when I'm doing dishes, doing laundry, doing stuff around the house that's monotonous and trance worthy. I'll go ahead and listen to like stuff here on YouTube, and it's so annoying when you don't pay for the premium that you can't just close up your phone and continue to watch and listen. And so when I got this notification, I'm like, you know what? I will start a podcast, and it will be a Lace Threg. It will be a Voice of the Dragon. Um, and so I might be moving Witch Talk to Sunday and a Dragon's. Well, I'm figuring it all out, because I want to be available for guests and co-hosts, and I want to keep in consideration of their time and their schedules. But I wanted to start creating scripts for a podcast, and so that's what I've started. I am slowly working on a podcast, and I will, when I'm ready, when I got the first season of podcast scripts finished, I will of course announce it on my website, which is ruandhayden.com. I will be blasting it on my Patreon account, and there may even be some extra goodies and extra podcasts just for Patreon patrons. Um, and speaking of, if you want to become a Patreon patron, of course, you can go down to patreon.com/RuonDHayden. I've even integrated Discord for my patrons, for my Patreon patrons, according to their suggested monthly donation. Their chosen tier level, and each tier level of course has its own benefits and discounts, and the lowest one I have is $5, less than a cup of coffee. Can't believe I'd say it's less than a cup of coffee, but that's the lowest level. You get access to my Fairy Friday episodes. You get access to one complimentary tarot reading a month, which will be delivered through Patreon on specific days. Some of them have distant healing sessions where I do energy work, or I ask them over there in petitions and stuff to help you be healthy, be happy. And some of the tiers also allow you, of course, monthly petitions and offerings, just to help minimize kundan, or the debts we make every day in our lives, which I will be mentioning on a podcast. That's one of my scripts I'm working on, is debts, repayment, and how it intertwines with fateful actions. And so you can go and do that. If you want services and only want to do a single donation, you can either go to my PayPal, and yes, that is my dead name. It is revadamjhayden@gmail.com. That's for my PayPal. You can even find it under the name of Triunity Metaphysical. Now, if you don't use that, I personally use Cash App for most of my my business stuff. So you can do that at their little hashtag thingy right there, the money symbol at RuonDHayden. And I figured I'd go ahead and just get that out of the way now in the episode, because I despise it, and Well, I mean, I don't like sitting there like just spamming people. If you don't want to give, you don't want to give. And I don't want to push or manipulate you in any way. But if you find any sort of benefits from the works I do, then think about becoming a patron. Think about donating because it helps pay my bills, helps me provide for my family, my beautiful 4-year-old daughter, my lovely wife, especially as I try to figure out how to manage going into, well, surviving, to be honest. It's really difficult when, you've got health issues. And so in the meantime, any amount any amount of financial help is greatly appreciated. And so, yeah, here I am. This is what I do. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I should talk more about my family tradition. There may be questions about the Adoniad tradition. And don't mind me when I pronounce it. It I'm still learning Kimreich. My grandfather, a Welsh witch, um, tried to learn Kimreich because his own father did not speak, and the previous one did not speak. Because when my family came to America, there was not many other Welshmen involved. I mean, a lot of them had been forced to unlearn due to the monarchy that holds it hostage, to be honest. And so my grandfather tried so hard to learn it, to remember what he was taught, but when it came to the family journals and manuscripts and stuff, it's different to read it than to hear it spoken. And so I'm learning um, to remember to pronounce it properly. But the House of Dawn is a Brythonic tradition of folklore and witchcraft. And we, of course, hold a Mabinogi as a very precious document, and many other Brythonic documents that have survived the persecution by the English, the persecution by religion, and even those tales have been tampered with. But the House of Dawn views the characters inherent in um, these tales, even including the Arthurian, to be very powerful entities that once interacted with my ancestors. Entities such as Mathat Mathonwe, Dawn herself, who is seen by my family as like dark matter or the weave of the world. Um, Fate itself, Mathat Mathonwe is the executor of that fate. He is King of Gwyneth in the stories, but I truly feel that he is the one who enforces the fateful taboos and consequences of life and death itself. We look at and we look at Gwyneth Neith, also called in our tradition Arun, as psychopomp. Not necessarily just fate itself. He is the initiator. He is the one that goes and creates change according to sovereignty and fate. So when one creates a debt, like our own debt and being alive itself, it is Arun, it is Gwyneth Neith who will come and reave your soul in sort of a wild hunt which is mindful because Odin himself does such in the Norse myths. And of course, when I mean myths, I'm not saying false. I'm saying mythohistory, where history, politics, and religion merge into the stories that are passed down. And all of them, every single one of them, has a golden strand of truth within it. And so, as being the House of Dawn, we also have Lula Gifes, Lu of the well, let's just say Lu is a entity that whose myth has been greatly misunderstood. Um, and according to our family tradition, and this could be wrong too, because things change over time. Luch is our grain god. He is the sheaf of wheat, of corn, and I mean corn in the sense of being wheat, because that was the term that was used for any plant-based substance, and most particularly those held by since as far back as Sumeria. And so, in the story of Luch, um, you get an idea of the cycle of life and death of the bringing in of agriculture. And now there is another entity that does deal with agriculture, but Lu is the Sacred King, the one who is cut down. He's John Barleycorn. But it is Govanen, I believe, yes. Govanen? No, Amathan. Amathan, one of the triple entities um, of the case system, so to speak, who is the patron of agriculture itself. But Lu is also the tale of coming to manhood. Lu, being the son of Erenrold, sometimes pronounced Erenrod, um, is also given certain tingets or taboos or things that um, this individual will not be able to do without initiating certain aspects of fate. Now, what's funny is when one looks at it, it is also a surety of an individual coming to manhood. But in our family tradition, what is held for one is held for the other. Um, so that is to receive a name to achieve your arms, to get weaponry, or in certain traditions, it could be the tools that you use in magic, and to be wed to the land. This is most particularly um, for those in the past focusing on um, the idea of sovereignty. A man cannot be a king without a queen, but a queen is always a queen. A female is always sovereignty, for she is the land itself. In this tale, the older queen would be Erenrot. Erenrot Verch Dawn. She gets her sovereignty from Dawn itself. And in our family tradition, Erenrot is the mound, is the land upon which one dwells, particularly a specific set of mounds, like the like a birth in the story of Puil Penanun. And so, unfortunately, or fortunately, Erenrot set those certain tingets upon him that unless he received a name from her, if unless he got his arms from her, he could not become, in the eyes of the society, a man. He would be a non-entity, even though he is of royal blood. And then finally, it was received upon him that he would receive no mortal wife. And so, Gwydion, who we see as the sun god, um, the father and uncle, well, the father. I don't know why I said uncle. Oh yeah, because in some tales, um, he's not seen as the father because he is brother. He is the sky to Erenrot's earth. And so, because of that, Gwydion, being tricksy, Gwydion, the sun, is also is seen as the druid, that caste of society, the wise ones, the fairy friends, the justified ones, the master men and cunning women. He tricks Erenrod through various means to give him his name, Lu Logifes. He receives his arms, his weaponry, his sword, and finally, having a hard time giving him sovereignty so that he could be a man and to be a king of his people. With the help of Mathop Mathonwi, fate himself, they created, now mind you, created a goddess, a other than human entity, in a human form, Blurweth, flower face, for they took the plants of the earth to make this entity, to be a wife unto Luch, so that he could finally receive his place in society and take up the kingship after Mathop Mathonwi should pass on to the unseen itself. Of course, Mathop Mathonwi is eternal in some ways. And so, for us, unless you have a name, you have arms, and you receive your sovereignty from the unseen, it can affect your life. And so when I think about this, I think about what coming of ages, what rites of passage do we really still have today in our society? Now, rites of passage were supposed to bring an illumination of certain mysteries, such as the male mysteries and the female mysteries. You know, and so these same rite of passages, what do we have today? In my family growing up, one of the first rites of passage, of course, is, your would be coming of 16, 15 and a half in some areas. And that is to get your driving license, to be able to sit there and travel wherever you wish to go. Well, within certain reasons, of course. Then there was 18. No longer are you under the thumb of your parental figures. But when I was growing up, it was you could finally buy your first pack of cigarettes. Because by the time I turned 16, they changed the law to 18. Funny how that works. Then, of course, we have age 21 when you can go out and partake of alcohol. And of course, nowadays we also have, in some places, the ability to smoke marijuana and partake in other sacred herbs. Like for me, utilizing such things as marijuana and specific teas and brews is religious for me, though I do use it for other stuff such as mental health and physical health issues. But that was another rite of passage. And so when we get to the point of marriage, that is also a rite of passage, or hand fasting, or make a commitment to another person held by the populace as being binding, is another rite of passage. And so for Lu to be denied this was to be held back. And so in that tale, Matha, Mathonwe, and Gwydion create a woman, which is the total bastardization of what the ancient harmonies was and is. You cannot force someone into an alliance of that nature without dealing with consequences. And Blodweth is a lady of sovereignty. She is made from the land itself. She is literally the land. And so when she is married to Lu, she had an affair with Gronwy ap Pebr. Now, Gronwy among us is the chaff. Like when you are harvesting grain, which is Lula Gifes, you separate the wheat from the chaff. Now, Gronwy is the crown, is the seed, actually, of the next harvest. So when Blodweth, being made of flowers, ends up choosing as consort Gronwy ap Pebr, she is actually in her full right as sovereignty and a sovereign woman of her own. And in this story, we see the introduction of patriarchy. A woman is forced. A man enforces. But see, that's not what the ancient harmonies were. And so we got to be careful when we look at mytho-histories. So we've touched on, in my family tradition, we touched on Dawn. Mathat Mathonwe, Gwydion ap Dawn, Erinrot ap Dawn, Erinrot Virch Dawn, Lula Gifes ap Erinrot, and a Gwydion as well. And I've got only a couple minutes left, and I guess I have no current questions presented to me. And so if you've got a question, comment, concern about anything you watch here on Witch Talk, for my patrons, Fairy Friday, or A Dragon's Voice, the video that's on Sunday, and soon the podcast, do not be afraid to reach out. I answer all questions and comments because my ministry is literally about communication and networking. And like I said, if you wish to donate or to support Witch Talk Radio, you can go to my Patreon account at patreon.com/RuanDeHayden. You can choose from a $5 suggested monthly donation, a $10 suggested monthly donation, a $20, because I don't remember if I've made a $15, and a $30 level. Each have their own benefits, discounts, and interesting tidbits, especially since you can connect it to Discord, where I have patron-only content and communication. Now, if you choose to do a one-time donation, you can go to Cash App, and that is the money sign, Ruan D. Hayden. And of course, I mean the USD money sign. Or you can send money through PayPal at revadamjhayden@gmail.com. Maybe in the future, I will try to get a different email. I just haven't found it to be pertinent at this time. And so with that, we have reached the end of the show. Now, Witch Talk is sponsored by the kind donations of viewers like you. My ministry itself is being sponsored by my Patreon patrons and as well as viewers like you. May you never hunger, may you never thirst, and may the good neighbors always be with you.